Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm building this 1939 Cape Cod style cottage called the Duxbury for some reason, and I'm building it in Brindleton Bay, which I felt was the best setting for this one, and even the layout of the lot makes sense for this house, seeing as the entryway is more towards the back end, which is also where the pathway to the house is, because in Brindleton Bay the roads are all kind of like bridges and there's just pathways and stuff. Anyways, to start off, I wanted to give some information about the history of the Cape Cod style. Not super in depth, but just for context and learning purposes, I guess. All of this can be found on Wikipedia, of course, because I am no expert. So, Cape Cod houses were originally created in England. They obviously weren't known as Cape Cod houses there, though. They were just houses, I guess. The style was brought over by Puritan carpenters to the area, which became known as Cape Cod. This was one of the first areas that the English settled in America and is located in what was to become Massachusetts. So it's still there, it still exists. It's kind of a tourist spot now. So these houses were typically very low to the ground, and they had a single pitched roof, and that was just due to the snow that would accumulate. It made it easier for the snow to just fall off of the roof. And they were made of wood and were covered in wide clapboard or shingles, and they were often unpainted, and they tended to weather gray over time. They also had shutters to keep out harsh winds, and most of the houses were small, usually 1,000 to 2,000 square feet in size, and they were symmetrical in appearance. This is like kind of the most identifying aspect of Cape Cod houses, is that they were symmetrical in appearance and typically had a large central fireplace which kept the entire house warm. Sometimes they'd have houses or fireplaces back to back to each other to heat different rooms. So this particular house that I made is not immediately recognizable as a Cape Cod house, simply because it isn't perfectly symmetrical, and the entrance is in the back, and that's because this was built in the 1930s during the rise in popularity of the colonial style of houses. And with this change, obviously, came modernizations for the time, like kitchens and bathrooms and more formal areas in the home, in addition to things like paint and wallpaper, etc. So the style of home became very popular during this time period and can be found all over the country now. It was a bit different for me to make this house because these houses aren't really in California, but also just because lately I've been doing a lot of dark, kind of broody sorts of houses, and this one's very like light and breezy. That's the vibe that Cape Cods give off to me, and totally doesn't fit with like the time of year right now or anything. But whatever, it's a cute little house in the end and could probably be dressed up to look very fall if you wanted to. I just didn't go that route this time. I wanted to make it seem like even though this house was made in the 1930s, they were sort of hearkening back to the original colonial era of like Cape Cod homes, in that there's that great wide plank flooring in the weird bluish green color that I put in here. That just made me think of colonial houses, because it was a common thing in like the 1700s and 1800s for people to paint their wood floors to look either nicer, like to cover up maybe cheaper wood floors or something, or to act in place of like a stain. And even they would paint them to have like a checkerboard pattern or like a marbled effect just to make them look nicer, I guess. Was a super common thing at the time. This color's a bit of a stretch, but it's The Sims, so it's fine, I think. But yeah, this house has a lot of color on the first floor, and the upstairs is a bit more understated. I just decided that pretty much like whitewashing everything would make sense, since everything upstairs is just the bedroom and bathroom spaces. The downstairs is what would have needed to look more like presentable for guests and whatnot. But it is a very small house in the end, good enough for like a small family, or if you wanted to do some sort of legacy challenge with a big family and a small home, sort of like the Weasleys from Harry Potter, like that kind of idea. Not exactly that, obviously. That's what I was envisioning a bit for this place, as something I'd like to do in my game. So just a thought for you I guess. This kitchen is teensy tiny, but very functional. I did playtest everything before uploading it to the gallery, so no worries there. This sort of kitchen is like what I imagine was the last steps before kitchens became what we know them as today, with the countertops and appliance layouts we're used to seeing. There's still a table in here acting as like a makeshift countertop, not really for The Sims, but just to look like it, because that's what they would have had like back in the day. That was a common thing. But we've got like a gas stove and a more modern fridge and running water with shelving and counter space. So it's like the bridge between modern day kitchens and kitchens of the past. It's an interesting time. And there's this pantry space that was essential still for this time, as cabinets weren't fully incorporated into the kitchens as they are now, and people had dry goods and things they needed to put away. So that's the only kind of not usable decorative space in this house. I know a lot of people don't really care for an abundance of clutter and decorative stuff, so it's minimal in this house. I like it personally, but I get it. Also, just realized I forgot a trash can, so that's great of me. Sorry. Just to get a bit off topic for a bit, as usual, I wanted to mention Discover University and my thoughts on it. Feel free to mute me if you haven't already. Sorry. So obviously Discover University was announced recently, and we've all seen the trailer or people's videos on it, so I won't go into like what's in it, but just how usable it is for me and how my expectations are kind of blown a little bit. Like, I just watched James Turner's video on the build buy overview, and I'm honestly surprised at how much we're getting in this one that is not only going to work in this one world, but is cross-compatible with so much more than we're used to seeing with packs. There's all these beautiful library items like bookcases and these perfect couches and armchairs that go together, which you all will definitely see in builds, as they're so versatile for vintage style homes. They could work from mid-century to colonial. It's great. And honestly, University was one of my favorite additions to Sims 2, so I'm excited for the gameplay. And the dorms, which look so American, it's great. Like, all the stereotypical cheap dorm furniture is nearly exactly like what I had in college, and the fact that there's triple rooms just takes me back to the horrors of my freshman year, so that's fun. I know a lot of people on Twitter were complaining about the size of the world, and at this point, it's like they can't drastically change anything about the game and what it can handle, so the worlds won't get bigger. I think since, you know, the direction the Sims team or EA went for with this game is making it playable on low spec computers, we aren't going to see gigantic worlds anymore with a gazillion lots and townies. That's just not the game we're buying into now, and that's not the game we will see. I think Sims 5 could be like a damn masterpiece of an open world where we get cars and babies and pools and 50 careers and traits all in the base game, but I just doubt that entirely, as they know now that people will still buy a game that is practically a shell and pay for everything that makes it playable. So I just don't get why people still rage at EA and the Sims gurus over something that just won't change at this point. Like, we all bought the games, they're getting their money regardless, so really does it matter anymore? I don't know. It seems like beating a dead horse at this point. Like, it's just not gonna change. So to me, I've just accepted The Sims as what it is, and I can't change it anymore, so that's that for me. But anyways, this is pretty much the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for letting me ramble and listening to me if you made it this far. Thank you so much. That's so cool of you to listen to somebody for this long. Good for you. Anyways, if you really want to, leave me a like, subscribe if you want to, leave me a comment, do all the things. I'm here. I will respond, maybe, if I feel like it. You never know. Every day's a different day. You never know how I'm gonna feel. Some days I'll respond, some days I'll just like it. Follow me on Instagram too if you want to, and Twitter if you want to. You can pretty much find me by searching Mylerann in any social media platform, because I'm the only person with this name. So that's it. I'm gonna stop talking now. Okay, goodbye. Wait for next week. Hopefully I'll do a video. Yay, maybe. Retail is taking my life, and holiday season is coming, so I'm scared and I might not have time to upload things, but I'll try to. Anyways, bye!